My name is Anya Sharma, and I used to be a true believer. For 11 years, my entire professional life was dedicated to Viridian Dynamics. On paper, we were the saviors of the planet, a multi-billion-dollar green energy conglomerate. Our advertisements, plastered on billboards and flooding the airwaves, showed pristine wind turbines spinning against azure skies and sprawling solar farms glistening in the desert sun. Our tagline, "Engineering a Greener Tomorrow," wasn't just marketing. For people like me, it was a gospel. I was a senior project manager, overseeing resource allocation for our European division. It was a high-stakes, high-reward position. I had a corner office with a view that swept across the city, a salary that afforded me a life of quiet luxury, and a deep, profound sense of pride. I wasn't just earning a living, I was making a difference. I was one of the good guys. That belief was the foundation of my life, and it was about to be shattered into a million pieces. The first crack in the facade was almost invisible. It began with Project Zephyr, our flagship wind farm in Romania, a project worth billions. As the lead manager, I was responsible for auditing its labyrinthine finances. I started noticing irregularities, small ones at first. Invoices for ground preparation that were nearly double the initial, already generous quotes. Logistical costs that fluctuated wildly without any corresponding fuel price or supply chain disruptions. I flagged them, and my direct supervisor, Mr. Harrison, a man I respected, a mentor I'd known for a decade, patted me on the shoulder and told me it was the cost of doing business in a complex region. He said I was too focused on the minutiae, that I needed to see the bigger picture. But the minutiae were my job. The numbers didn't just seem off, they felt wrong, like a melody played in a discordant key. So I began to dig. Not on company time, but in the dead of night, long after the humming servers and the security guards were my only companions. Fueled by coffee and a growing knot of dread in my stomach, I pulled on a single thread, and the entire tapestry of Viridian's pristine image began to unravel. The thread was a subcontractor, a company called Horizon Logistics. They were a nothing company, registered in a Caribbean tax haven just 2 years prior, yet they had been awarded exclusive, non-compete contracts for nearly all of Project Zephyr's transport. Their bids were consistently 30% higher than established, reputable firms. It made no sense. I spent a week tracing their ownership through a maze of shell corporations, a digital house of mirrors designed to confuse and deflect. Finally, I found a name, buried deep in the incorporation documents, listed as a consulting director. It was Harrison's brother-in-law. My blood ran cold. This wasn't a simple case of nepotism. It was a template. I widened my search, using my high-level clearance to access other projects. And I found it again and again. Project Solaris in Spain, Project Tsunami in Portugal. Different projects, different regions, same pattern. Shell companies, inflated invoices, non-existent subcontractors, and all of them, when meticulously traced, led back to a small, interconnected group of individuals, 3 senior executives and Mr. Harrison. They weren't just padding expense reports, they were systematically siphoning off billions. They were using the noble cause of saving the planet as a personal piggy bank. The excess costs weren't going into the ground, they were going into offshore accounts. The company I loved, the mission I had dedicated my life to, was a lie. A beautiful, grotesque, multi-billion-dollar lie. For a week, I lived in a state of muted panic. I would sit in high-level meetings, watching these executives discuss our commitment to sustainability, my hand trembling under the table as I gripped a pen. Harrison would smile at me, ask about my weekend, and I would have to force a smile back, the taste of bile rising in my throat. I was trapped. If I went to internal compliance, I knew what would happen. The report would be buried, and I would be quietly restructured out of a job. These men were the system. Keeping silent felt like a betrayal of every principle I held, but speaking out felt like suicide. They wouldn't just fire me, they would destroy me. I was one woman against a corporate machine with a legal department larger than most countries' armies and a PR team that could spin arsenic into health food. The decision came not as a bolt of lightning, but as a slow, cold realization. I couldn't live with the lie. I couldn't be a part of it. If I stayed silent, I was complicit. That night, I made my choice. My paranoia became my shield. I bought a new laptop, a burner phone, and a high-capacity encrypted USB drive, all with cash. For the next 3 weeks, I operated as a spy within my own life. I meticulously copied everything. The falsified invoices, the internal memos, the offshore incorporation documents, the hidden bank transfers. I created a digital breadcrumb trail so clear, so irrefutable, that not even Viridian's army of lawyers could obscure it. Every downloaded file felt like a hammer blow against the walls of my own prison. I emailed the data in encrypted packets from a public library to a new, anonymous email address I had created. Finally, I transferred everything onto the single USB drive. This was my bomb, my insurance, my confession. I knew I couldn't go to the authorities alone. They would bury me in procedure while Viridian shredded the evidence. I needed someone who could strike fast and hard. Mark Riley. He was an investigative journalist, a Pulitzer finalist known for his ruthless takedowns of corrupt corporations. He was a pit bull. I sent him an anonymous message from the library. I have proof Viridian Dynamics is the biggest green fraud in history. You will want to see this. We arranged a meeting. It felt like something out of a spy movie. A rainy Tuesday afternoon, a nondescript cafe in a part of town I never visited. I sat in a booth, my heart hammering against my ribs. He slid in opposite me, looking tired and skeptical. "You got 10 minutes, he grunted. I didn't speak. I slid the small, black USB drive across the table. "It's all there," I whispered. "Project Zephyr, Horizon Logistics, the executives. Check the offshore accounts linked to Harrison." His eyes sharpened. He looked from the drive back to my face, his skepticism replaced by a sudden, intense focus. He nodded, pocketed the drive, and left without another word. I waited. For 2 agonizing weeks, I went to work, pretending everything was normal. I smiled at Harrison. I perfected my presentations. I lived a double life, my nerves frayed to the breaking point. Every time my phone rang, I jumped. Every time I was called into an unexpected meeting, I thought, this is it. They know. Then, one Monday morning, the bomb detonated. I woke up to my phone exploding with notifications. Mark Riley's article was on the front page of every major news outlet. Viridian's green empire, a multi-billion-dollar sham. The stock market opening was a bloodbath. Viridian's stock plummeted by 60% in the first hour. Federal investigators announced an immediate probe. The world I had known was on fire. I walked into the office that day through a sea of panicked employees and flashing news cameras. The building was in chaos. People were crying, yelling into phones, packing their desks. Harrison's office was empty, sealed by corporate security. An emergency all-hands meeting was called. Our CEO, a woman I had once admired, stood on stage, her face pale but her voice firm. She denounced the article as a vicious, unsubstantiated attack and vowed to find the disloyal employee who had betrayed this family. Her eyes scanned the crowd, and for a terrifying second, they seemed to lock onto mine. The hunt had begun. They didn't know it was me, not yet. But they would. They brought in a new team, corporate fixers, from a high-priced DC firm. They were led by a woman named Ms. Graves, a pale, impeccably dressed woman with eyes like polished steel. Her job was not to find the truth. It was to control the narrative and cauterize the wound. My high-level access and my recent flags on Project Zephyr put me at the top of her list. The retaliation was not a sudden strike. It was a slow, crushing boa constrictor. First, I was temporarily reassigned, moved from my corner office to a windowless cubicle in the basement, citing the ongoing investigation. My projects were handed over to a junior analyst. Then, my colleagues, people I had considered friends, began to avoid me. They wouldn't meet my eye in the hallway. Lunch invitations stopped. I was being socially, professionally, and emotionally isolated. Miss Graves called me into interviews that felt more like interrogations. She'd sit across a polished mahogany table, a file with my name on it in front of her. "It's odd, Anya," she'd say, her voice deceptively soft, "that you were the only manager to raise concerns about these projects, yet you never filed a formal complaint. Why is that? Were you gathering leverage?" They audited my life. They scoured my emails, my expense reports, my work history, looking for a single crack. When they couldn't find one, they began to manufacture them. Anonymous rumors began to circulate that I was emotionally unstable, that I was having an affair with an executive at a rival company, that I was the one trading on insider information, and this leak was just a way to cover my tracks. They were building a case, not to take to court, but to destroy my reputation so that if I ever did come forward, I would have no credibility. The final blow came on a Friday. I was called into a meeting with Graves and an HR representative. Anya, Graves said, her face a mask of false regret. During our investigation, we've uncovered gross misconduct, a severe breach of your employment contract. Effective immediately, your position at Viridian Dynamics is terminated. I was fired for cause. I was publicly shamed. They didn't just fire me, they blacklisted me. They froze my severance, locked my pension, and sent me a letter from their legal team threatening me with a multi-million-dollar lawsuit for breach of confidentiality if I ever spoke about my time at the company. I was escorted out of the building by security, carrying my life in a single cardboard box, walking past the same employees I had once led. I had lost everything. My job, my reputation, my financial security, and my entire professional identity. The first few months were a blur of shame and terror. I was unemployable. The moment a recruiter Googled my name, I was toxic. I was the disgraced Viridian manager. I burned through my savings just paying for my apartment. The legal notices from Viridian piled up, a campaign of financial intimidation designed to bleed me dry. I was alone, terrified, and beginning to think I had made a terrible mistake. But Mark Riley, the journalist, hadn't forgotten me. He connected me with a non-profit legal firm, the Sentinel Project, which specialized in protecting whistleblowers. At the same time, the Department of Justice's investigation, fueled by my data, was gaining serious traction. The federal prosecutor, a sharp-eyed woman named Maria Flores, contacted me. I was no longer a victim. I was their star witness. The next year was the hardest of my life. I spent hundreds of hours in stark, windowless rooms with federal investigators and lawyers, meticulously walking them through every document, every spreadsheet, every hidden connection I had uncovered. My life was put under a microscope, but this time it was by allies. Viridian's lawyers tried everything. They motioned to have my evidence thrown out. They filed countersuits against me. They painted me in the press as a disgruntled, lying, and vindictive employee. But the data, my bomb, was irrefutable. The numbers didn't lie. The offshore accounts were real. The signatures were genuine. The day I walked into the federal courthouse to testify, I was terrified. But as I sat in the witness box, I saw Harrison and the other executives sitting at the defense table. They looked small, gray, and pathetic, stripped of their power in their bespoke suits. I looked at the jury, and for the first time in 2 years, I told the truth. My truth. The whole truth. I spoke for 3 days. When Viridian's lawyer tried to tear me apart on cross-examination, accusing me of fabricating the entire story for personal gain, I simply looked at him and said, "What did I gain? I lost my career. I lost my reputation. I lost my savings. I gained nothing but the knowledge that I did the right thing." In the end, it was a clean sweep. Harrison and 2 other executives were found guilty of wire fraud, conspiracy, and money laundering. They were sentenced to federal prison. Viridian Dynamics, as a corporation, was fined a record-breaking $1.8 billion for defrauding investors and the public. The company was shattered, forced to restructure and sell off most of its assets. My name was cleared. I won my wrongful termination suit, but the money felt like an afterthought. The real victory was that the truth had won. Life didn't just snap back to normal. You can't unlive that kind of trauma. The corporate world still viewed me with suspicion. The whistleblower, tag is a brand, and not always a good one. But I didn't want my old life back. I had seen the rotten core beneath the polished surface. I moved out of the city, took some time to heal, to breathe. A few years later, I found a new path. I now work for the Sentinel Project, the same firm that saved me. I consult with and support others who, like me, find themselves trapped between a paycheck and their conscience. I speak at universities, not about green energy, but about corporate ethics and the courage to speak truth to power. I lost my job, my office, and the life I thought I wanted. But I found my voice, and I found that some things are worth more than a corner office with a view.